I've been working on this tree for I think 2 years now. The more I work on this tree, the more it is turning into a cosmic bonsai. And this is actually what I didn't intend to do. But looking at this trunk and the way it is twisted and damaged, cosmic bonsai. Let's go all the way back, months, years. And then at the end of the video I'll show you how this will enter winter, because it is the last week of October, winter is coming. Now, let me get started on what did I actually do this spring. Earlier this year, I had a whole bunch of large seedlings, just like this one. And I decided to make a YouTube short video on how do you make an exposed roots, twisted, contorted, large seedling bonsai. And I took one and I wired it out completely. And I put bends and twists and turns in all these branches. You can actually see it here now as well, right? All these bends. These are all long growth from this year, but this is what I did in spring. And when I was planting it up in this pot, I used fairly coarse substrate. And it was wiggling and twisting and shouting just to make sure that the roots get a coarse shape in this pot. I looked at all the material and, well, it's unfocused, blurry, out of scope, out of view. Now, it has been growing. It actually was connected to the soil. I had to pull it out. But it is now the middle of summer, first growing season of this tree, and it has done magnificently. For larch to develop properly, these, you can see, these shoots are much weaker than these shoots. So these I need to trim back partially. I'm going to keep some of them. Then I'm going to remove all the wiring that's on there. Well, that should be enough to take the pressure from these upper branches and push the sap flow down low. I'm going to shorten this one a little bit. There we go. This time of year wiring larch means that you're going to also wire some of the needles in. But you know what, it's a crazy larch, it's a crazy experiment, and it just sits in my garden. It's not going to any exhibition anytime soon. Who cares? Now, key is, especially when they're young, to not just bend but also twist and rotate, because that will help to give you nice shapes also in the sap flow. There is some wire here that is really starting to bite in, but I'm just going to let it. I'm going to see how this works out. I'm going to remove all the wire in winter, but for now I'm going to just leave it like this. Keep in mind, it looks really crazy. It is all twisted and contorted, but still there is a certain system in the madness, and I do try to adhere to the basic bonsai rules. So I want thicker branches down low, I want taper in the trunk, I want movement, I want a clear canopy, but just very crazy. End of the season. Let's take a look at this tree. The wire has really been swallowed by the trunk, but that's fine. I wanted that to happen. I want big scars on this tree. I'm going to wire out the rest of the tree, pull it out of the pot and see whether I can get a bit of a nicer pot for this, and yeah, get it ready for the season. Best to first unwire the thinner wires, because you might have accidentally crossed them. You shouldn't, and I wouldn't, but I did cross the wires. Completely overgrown. Can't even get this off anymore, I think. Oh, I can, look. There we go. Big fat scar. These big fat grooves I will now cut with a knife to widen them and create deadwood elements on the trunk and later also on the branches. Now here in the top you see where the wire has cut into the bark, or actually the bark has grown around it, and as said, I like the swelling because what I want to do is I want to create a little bit of a yin out of here. And I do that by just removing a sliver of the bark on the side of the area that has swallowed it, and I do it a little bit lower as well. And I'm trying to be not too even in the distribution. It should look like a trunk that over time has suffered, has had dieback, and therefore there are all sorts of bare spots on the trunk. And I'm going to do this all the way down, and I'm going to find every single spot where I can see wire marks. Now all these little scars that I've made here on the trunk will cause the swelling of the growing trunk to be around it, because these areas will not grow much anymore. Some more scar tissue will, of course, grow over it. But as I let this grow out over the next 2 or 3 years, some areas will swell a lot more than others. And I hope that this is going to help give it a more aged look. Now all I have to do is go through the tree, wire out these branches again, and then I'm going to pull it out of the pot and see what the roots look like. Now the way to make Neagari bonsai is by slowly lowering the substrate levels. This container is full of roots. I'm only going to allow the bottom half of the roots to be back in the container, but I'm not going to actively remove the substrate from the top part. That way, over time, the substrate will erode away, the roots will be exposed, and more of the, the water adapted roots will become air adapted. They'll create a corky bark and be better resistant to the circumstances. Now I'm using an old pot, add a little bit of substrate as usual at the bottom of the pot. Not too much, because I want to reuse quite a bit here. And then just gently lift it out, hoping that the root ball is actually so compact and defined that it doesn't fall apart. That does look reasonable. And now, as said, I'm not going to do all that much here. I'm just removing the substrate that's loose until I get to the top of the Neagari, which is here. And then I'm just on the bottom going to tease out these roots here. There is, of course, plastic mesh. And then I'm just gently pulling them out. Now this is now loose. I can spread out the roots a little bit into the pot. So that's all for now. Just fill it up till the rim of the pot, and then we'll see how this recovers in springtime. It really is the year of snails. Another one of them. Snails, slugs, all of the above. Don't need the top all that strong. I want the lower branches to extend. So mid-spring, early summer prune. Well, this larch is growing really well. And what you can actually tell here is that the scars that I made in winter have completely grown over. This is what a larch will do. And I'm just going to open them up. Here at the base, I see the trunk is thinning. So this old scar that I have here, I'm going to pull back into the back as well, so that the lower part swells a little bit more. And I'm going to connect some of these scars here in the top. This can of course cause the top to die off. But I think this still is okay for this time of year. Just keep it well watered. And now I'm just going to let it grow again until the end of the summer, and then I'll prune and wire and unwire. There's still wire on there, but I'm just going to allow that to be swallowed a little bit by the bark. I want scars on this tree. It is almost November. We are in one of the last nice days of this year. Winter is going to come in, and to be honest, I'm a little bit tired of this tree. It was a little joke. It was a leftover tree that I had from a workshop and a little bit of styling. And now it really seems to become a project. And I am pledging for next year fewer projects. Yes, that means you as well, YouTube. What are your pledges actually? Do you have a pledge for next year? What do you want to achieve next year with bonsai? I might actually put it in a New Year's video. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the leftover wires. I'm going to prune it back a little bit. I'm going to show you how these scars that I made have developed. And then I'm going to add a little bit more wire. And then I'm going to call it a day, I think. This is the power of larches. They just grow over. Everything that I opened up in summer has now closed over here, here at the bottom, further up, and all the way in the top, the very big scar. Also, this very big scar here has closed over in a matter of weeks. Now I can open them up again and create even bigger scars. And what you're going to see if I take the bark away is you should see the wood fibers in this direction. So we're actually pushing the sap flow now around the trunk by adding these scars. But that's not what I'm going to do. I was going to remove these wires here. So let me get going here. There's lots and lots of wires. I'll show you a few wires that are ingrown and how I handle them in this style. But the wire that I have here can just come off without any effort. That's nice. And that is in contrast to the wire here. You can hardly see the wire because it has completely been overgrown. But here, you know, there's this little edge of the wire that I have here. Bring it around to the front. And now I'm getting to the point that the bark has completely closed over it. Now, because this is a larch, I think I can still pull it out without doing permanent damage. But look at the bark damage that you're doing here. You can therefore also decide, I'm just going to leave it there in place, and I'm just going to be extra careful when I'm pruning the tree. And I'm afraid this has grown over so much. Yeah, this is what I'm going to have to do. So this is the downside of leaving wire on too long. It's now so far embedded I can't actually get it off. On the other end, look at that, this does come out, but it does require considerable force in the direction that it has been wired. Okay, didn't come out completely, there's a little bit, it has just snapped off. Here the wire, however, has not grown in, or actually has not been overgrown by the tree, because that's what it is. Which is a bit of a disappointment, because I actually wanted lots and lots of scarring. And like previous rounds of wiring, I'm just not following any particular pattern as long as it is completely twisted up on the branches. And I should get a knife and open up, the scars again. So here in the top I'm leaving a few of these longer ones to create some continuations of the style, but overall I'm creating lots of shorter branches as well, because I don't want this top to get any heavier than it is now. I realize it's not intuitive how much a branch shortens when you bend it in this fashion. So let me show you. First wire the whole thing out, and then let's watch this. See how much length I've lost now just by twisting it up. There's a lot of wire involved as well. Well, is this Neagari? Not really. It is really more a cosmic bonsai tree. And I hope that you do enjoy this style. I hope that you enjoy the process. And maybe it's something that you can try as well. Now, if you want to know more about cosmic bonsai, look for Laurent Darieux. I will pop his name right here. And if I can find it, I will pop a video on how he does it right there. And check out my last video right there. See you next time. This was Jelle, growing bonsai.